Hello, my name's Nigel Topping. I'm the CEO of We Mean Business. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person at the conference, but I'm delighted to be able to address you from here in London. Over the past decade, business leadership for the low-carbon economy has gained considerable traction. A whole array of organisations and initiatives have sprung up around the world to drive corporate ambition on climate change. However, these various efforts have not yet come together in a way that has created a real breakthrough. Until now, we have failed to shift the business narrative on climate change, to drive greater action by the private sector, and to push for the level of policy ambition which business needs to drive the investment and innovation needed to scale up the low-carbon economy. This is what We Mean Business has set out to change. We Mean Business is a coalition of organisations working with thousands of the world's most influential businesses and investors. We Mean Business launched with a group of 7 business networks working on climate change: the B Team, BSR, CDP, Ceres, the Prince of Wales Corporate Leaders Group, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and the Climate Group. Since then, we've been collaborating with some great supporting organisations, including IETA, the UN Global Compact, the World Resources Institute, and the World Bank. And now we're very proud to be working side by side with a new group of regional partners, including NBI in South Africa, TERI in India, and of course, CBDS in Brazil. These fantastic organisations are helping us to extend our reach and our messaging, and to deepen the impact of our collective work. We Mean Business is working to shift the business narrative on climate change, to catalyse ambitious business action, and to send a clear message to governments that business supports strong policy frameworks that will enable them to scale low-carbon innovation to deliver the solutions that will bridge the emissions gap. These businesses recognise that the transition to a low-carbon economy is the only way to secure sustainable economic growth and prosperity for all. To accelerate this transition, we've formed a common platform to amplify the business voice, to catalyse bold climate action by all, and to promote smart policy frameworks. And an increasing number of businesses and investors that we work with understand that bold climate action is not a burden, but a historic economic opportunity. These organisations and the thousands of businesses and investors they work with recognise that the transition to a low-carbon economy is the only way to secure sustainable economic growth and prosperity for all, and that bold climate action simply makes business sense. So how do we know that taking bold action on climate and energy simply makes good business sense? When the research that we published at the Secretary General's Summit last year, we showed that forward-thinking companies are seeing an internal rate of return of 27% on their low-carbon investment. Some are seeing returns as high as 81% on specific projects. More companies and more investors are committing to bold leadership on climate change than at any time in history. Consistent and credible government policy signals are essential for businesses and investors to create jobs, growth and innovation. Companies are driven to change their behaviour by a number of factors, with reputation and customer demand cited as the top reasons, and policy also an important factor. We showed how policy created the market conditions for over 400 companies to implement LED lighting projects between 2012 and 2013 to create a market that's now worth $4.8 billion and expected to rise to $42 billion by 2019. Latin American companies are achieving an average of 13.4% internal rate of return on investments in renewable energy projects. They're achieving an average of 17% on their low-carbon investments. And 54.4% of power in Latin America is already generated from renewable sources, including large hydro. From 2006 to 2013, Latin America attracted a total of $132 billion of investment into renewable energy projects. And Latin American companies deliver about twice the amount of emission savings per dollar invested as companies in the United States. So what have we achieved so far at We Mean Business in the year since we were founded? Well, through We Mean Business, the partners are collaborating and cutting through as never before. The coalition members share a common strategy to ensure that the coalition maximises positive business influence on the outcomes of the Paris UNFCCC negotiations and national levels of ambition in the major developed and emerging economies. We coordinate our communications activities and amplify each other's messages to ensure that business leaders present a clear, consistent message of ambition to policymakers, peers and the media. And we invite companies to align behind the most impactful business leadership and innovation platforms, ensuring that business leaders working with the coalition can access the right opportunities to advance bold action around the world. By pooling our expertise, networks and resources, we're able to increase our collective impact to multiple levels of what each of us could have achieved individually. Backed by robust analysis of corporate disclosures provided by CDP, together with case studies, interviews from business leaders and innovative storytelling, we have shifted the business narrative on climate from one of cost and burden to one of economic opportunity and competitive advantage. We Mean Business brought out new powerful voices from the private sector in support of bold action, including Apple CEO Tim Cook and IKEA CEO Peter Agnefjäll, and recruited new companies from challenging sectors and geographies to action, such as General Mills, Kellogg's and General Motors. We Mean Business helped bring more businesses out in support of the EPA Clean Power Plan in the United States. We defended ambitious climate targets in the European Union and convened new coalitions around ambitious commitments on renewable energy, where we already have more than 15 major companies committed to 100% renewable energy procurement, and bold carbon emissions reduction targets, where we already have more than 20 major companies setting targets in line with the climate science. Working with the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and the International Emissions Trading Association, we helped unify in support of carbon pricing mechanisms as a critical policy solution. And we helped establish the Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition to take the essential work of carbon pricing forward. Business needs to work with government to scale solutions and close the emissions gap. So business is already taking action. And as I've illustrated, it makes good sense to do so. But we need smart, clear, long-term policy frameworks in order for us to scale up solutions and help close the emissions gap. What kind of policies would help business go further and faster? We're calling for a robust and stable carbon pricing. Strong carbon pricing will unlock investment and innovation to a low-carbon economy. More than 1,000 companies and investors and over 70 countries are now calling for robust carbon pricing. Hundreds of companies already use an internal price on carbon and disclose it to CDP. We also need a long-term emissions reduction goal to be included in the Paris Agreement. One that's in line with the science, which says that we need to achieve net zero emissions well before the end of the century. Such a clear emissions reduction target will send a signal to markets, mobilise capital and accelerate the transition to a low-carbon economy. We're aiming to have over 400 companies signed up to these commitments by the COP21 in Paris, and well over 90 companies have already joined. And on the road to Paris and beyond, we will be telling the story that these companies are taking bold climate action because it's good for their bottom line and it's good for the economies of the countries where they do business. You can find more information about how your company can join us at wemeanbusinesscoalition.org. I'd like to end by saying a few words about the role of Brazilian business in securing a successful international climate treaty. Have no doubt you have a pivotal role. For many years, I visited Brazil regularly when I was working in the automotive industry and investing in a new plant in Indaiatuba. My Brazilian friends always demonstrated hard work, a humble attitude, and a commitment to innovation, as well as an infectious sense of fun and possibility. You have a unique opportunity, I would say a responsibility, to stamp a Brazilian flavour on the low-carbon economy of the future, to show leadership at a world scale. Put simply, there are 3 things you can do. Firstly, join your peers in signing up to one of the leadership commitments that I've just described. Secondly, you can encourage your peers to do the same. And lastly, you can lend your voice to the debate with policymakers to make sure that Brazil issues an ambitious INDC. There's an old joke that I know many of you know that says that Brazil is the country of the future and always will be. But the future is now, and it's your chance to make it. Thank you for your leadership, and good luck for the rest of the conference. Goodbye.